Hey everyone, it is Kevin Henry with IgniteDDS. Hope you are safe and healthy as we continue along this path with the COVID-19 pandemic, what's going on out there, and we're trying to bring you the best information we can from experts in the field. And I know Johnathan Miller from Fortune Management is joining us again today, as is my partner in crime and good friend, Dr. David Rice. Dave, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, Kev. I'm doing well. Thanks to both of you gents for being here today. Super stoked, Johnathan, that you're back. I know we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about teams. And I think we're going to start reframing this whole thing, right? And we're going to talk about the interruption we have in our practices right now and as something that we not only can overcome, but that we will overcome. So we're going to talk some strategy today, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
So I'm going to dive right in because I think there's a lot to cover here, especially around leadership during the interruption and around team members and their roles during the interruption. The disclaimer on this is naturally it can be really, really tough for leaders and really tough for team members to say, well, what exactly do you expect me to do when I'm either not getting paid or not really working or all that stuff? And honestly, we're trying to preserve the business here. So think of today's talk as more of a business continuity plan, because that's what I think it is. Right now, we're trying to make sure that we're taking the right steps today so that there's a business to come back to. Because you know, I don't know everyone's position on the call here, but, you know, suffice it to say that there's a good amount of folks that their owner may be second guessing if they really want to come back and build up again. Depending upon how long this goes, you may have an owner who is kind of on the fence already and teetering and going, well, you know, it'd be nice to sell one day, right? I have an exit strategy somewhere in the next 5-ish or so years. And this can be a real big reality check for them. And this slowdown could say, well, gosh, I don't know if I really want to come back and do all this stuff again. So it's going to be up to the team in some cases to pick their leader up and say, hey, we've got you, we've got this, we're your support network, we're your base, you can count on us. So some offensive strategies right now, because I think that so far I've been talking a lot of defensive strategies, right? How to minimize impact, how to preserve cash flow, how to do all that stuff. At some point, we're going to get back to business. Every storm passes, and I wish I could say, and I wish we all could say, oh yeah, in like 2 weeks' time, you know, it's all over the media. We know that that's not true. So some offensive strategies. The first thing is, if you have a big team, make sure that you guys have already delegated who's on call during what emergency days. So the first thing is that every owner should say, here's the days that I'm going to be available for emergency. Some owners may say, we have a big enough team and a big enough practice, I'm open every day of the week for emergency. Others, though, with limited resources and smaller teams are saying things like, well, I'm open on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And the reason why that matters is because you're trying to make sure, A, you have the right PPE and all those other resources that you need, and B, you have access to team members that can actually come in. It's hard to say you're all on call all the time when we're also trying to have a life as well and not think about everything else that's going on around us. And on call is different, but even in pockets like Southern California, traffic does still exist. I know it's crazy, but people are still on the road. There are people that are still going to work. And so, you know, you want to make sure that you're on call, meaning you're no longer than roughly 15 to 30 minutes away from the practice at any time. So bigger teams should delegate who's on call what day. And if you have multiple doctors, you would then assign doctors to be on call. Smaller teams, you're most likely going to have only 1 or 2 people on call potentially, but then what days would they be on call? So you can give them some sort of a break as well. Other items for lines of offense. I think you guys have talked teledentistry pretty good. You feel confident you guys have covered that strategy enough?
We're doing pretty good on teledentistry, but are you working that into your plan with your practices?
Well, from an offensive standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as we know there's light at the end of the tunnel, we want to start getting involved in teledentistry now. Reaching out to those folks and saying, hey, so the messaging today is, hey, the office is closed except for emergency patients. And you know, in most states now that's changed to life-threatening emergency cases, right? Because some doctors are like, hey, this full veneer set is an emergency. I got to come in and do it. So I'm not here to say one way or the other what you can and can't classify as emergency, but I know the ADA came out with some very more strict and more clear-cut definitions on this is life-saving or life-threatening emergency dentistry that you should be doing and the rest of the stuff you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So the teledentistry side now means that once I know there's light at the end of the tunnel, I want to start putting out there, hey, we're available for consults or for exams is a better word right now. And this is what we mean. Any sort of issue that you've had that you've been afraid to ask, any sort of issue that you were thinking about coming in for but couldn't because you're on shelter in place, let's get on the phone now. Let's start doing that right now. especially as we see more and more insurances coming out, it seems like every day saying, we'll go ahead and pay for or honor the billing of these codes. So we want to implement teledentistry as we know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If you have the ability and the resources to do all kinds of teledentistry now, great. Most likely, though, we think the patient base is going to be reluctant to just dive all into that. If it hasn't been said 100 times before, I'm going to say it again anyway, and that is make sure that we're doing everything we can to collect all of our AR from insurances. That's all I'll say about that, but that's your money sitting there. Get on the phone or get those claims sent in, resubmit those photos, resubmit better notes, and get those claims out to the AR on the insurance side of the house. I will say, though, this is a very, very bad time to be reaching out to patients, no matter how outstanding the bill is overdue. It just is not good. And you do not want that email or that message to show up on Yelp somewhere or on Facebook somewhere. It will haunt you for a very, very long time. So then next, right now, we are encouraging every single owner doctor to call their patients. Pick 10 to 15 patients a day and pick up the phone and call them. But that's an offensive strategy. And what you're doing is calling and saying, hey, I'm here for you. Is there anything I can do to help you right now? Are there any questions that I can help answer for you right now? But you're just calling those patients. Most likely you're going to end up leaving a lot of voicemails. Patients are going to remember, and they're going to judge you as an owner and unfortunately you as a dentist with how you handle this situation today. So call every patient you possibly can. Like I said, 10 to 15 patients a day, every day of the week right now. You can pick up the phone and start calling.
Johnathan, can I ask you a question?
So,
pulling the team side in, is that a dentist only task or is that a dentist and team thing, do you think?
What do you mean team side?
So calling 10 to 15 patients a day, is that something?
Oh, only the dentist could do or the team could jump in on as well?
Yeah.
I would tell you that if your team has a better relationship with the patient than you do, then I'm all for the team calling in. And you know who those people are. I mean, look, a guy like me, when I go to the dentist, I know the dentist, but I'm fortunate. I don't need a lot of work. They come in, they say, yep, everything's ship shape. We'll see you. And I like to get my teeth cleaned 3 times a year. So the good news is I'm not on perio. I think it's a better standard of care. So I go in 3 times a year. But the doc comes in, says, how you doing? The standard stuff, right? How's your fam? How's everything going? Good to see you. And then they jump to their next patient because I don't really need anything.
Right.
So I've got a much better relationship with the hygienist than I do the doctor from that standpoint. Now, you need to gauge it based on, if you haven't seen that patient in a while, quite honestly right now, is if you didn't get a chance to do that exam, 6 months ago, or the last time they were in last week, and it's been 8, 10, 12 months since their last doctor exam, because, not every doctor does an exam twice a year, then have the hygienist call, especially if they've been seeing that hygienist, the same one for 5, 10, 15 years. You know how long these relationships go.
Yeah.
So that's where I say divide and conquer. Naturally, I don't see too much division of labor in that department on the assistant side, and maybe with someone in the front, but oftentimes, for better or worse, most patients look at your front office person as the bill collector. Oh, here comes the money person, right? Here comes the closer, or these things that we hear patients say. So if that's how they view your front office person, please don't have them call because they probably think it's some sort of collection call.
Yeah, no, I like that. Cab, thoughts?
I think I would just want to circle back to one of the things you said at the very start, talking about the dentist kind of reaching out. And I think the team should be as well, in terms of just making sure what's the contingency plan, what's moving forward, what's my role. I don't want team members sitting back and saying, well, I'm going to wait for instructions. I think this is a good time for you as a team member to say, what's next? Where are we going? How do I play a role? And really kind of show a little bit of leadership on your side as well.
Like that.
So great point. That's something that we talk about in what we call a business continuity plan. And at this stage, I think that that's an offensive strategy as well and not a defensive one. It suffices to say most doctors walking around and really most small business owners did not have a business continuity plan, especially in areas where, look, if you are in, unfortunately, New Orleans, you're used to seeing a flood, a pretty impactful flood every few years right now, just with the way that things have gone down. So you might be one of the few that had something in place for, look, if we have a weather event or a natural disaster, here's our plan. Here's what you can expect from me. Here's when communication is going to happen. If you don't hear from me, then here's what you do next, that kind of stuff. Most practices didn't have that. And I know I can speak for most Californians, potentially those folks in Florida that are used to dealing with hurricanes could have. But I mean, I don't know anybody in New York that was planning for a hurricane. Yeah, you guys get snow, but nothing like, oh, it's going to lift our practice up and relocate it, and we're not going to be able to work for 3 to 6 months while we rebuild, So business continuity planning now is, I see, an offensive strategy. And to dive into that briefly, and I can share a template if you want. We design it with our practices, and the finished product is going to be somewhere around 10 to 20 pages long because it's practice specific. But the template is in its easiest form. We divide up 4 people. So you're going to have a patient communications source leader or accountability person. You're going to have a team communications accountability person. You're going to have an office protocols, and I'll explain what that is in a second, accountability person. And then you're most likely going to have a director or a business organization accountability person. The business person, most likely the doctor. This is the one that on those defensive strategies, we're talking about, stop losses, right? So let's minimize our debts. Let's preserve cash flow. What are the things that we can do there? And they're also going to be the one to check in on disaster relief loans. How do we handle unemployment benefits? That's what the director or the business operations person is going to do. The office operations person is going to be the one to check on the physical space. So you guys have probably seen those checklists. I know Patterson circulated a really great one. That person, the office person, is going to be the one that says, hey, I'm going to go in and check on the practice every couple of days. Make sure that, we're checking vacuum compressor, we're checking all these things. And that check should be 15 minutes. You're kind of giving it the eyeball test. You're checking things out. You want to make sure, though, that the business upstairs above you or the one next to you didn't have a flood or an issue because they didn't go in and check on their space and they left something on. Or, there's just issues, physical space issues of the practice. Ultimately, too, they're probably going to want to check on the status of your server. Is it doing its backups? Is everything happening the right way? Or can they at least reach out to the IT company? Because heaven forbid, something happens in the IT side. We know that crime doesn't stop. We know that things are happening where people are trying to hack systems and that kind of thing. And so are your backups happening regularly so you can get back to business as usual? Or if you still have physical charts, what happens in the event that you start to have property damage and a loss? Who's in charge of those physical charts? I'm assigning now a task to someone that as they go and check on the physical space, if there are issues, they're the first person that says, okay, I'm going to grab the charts. I'm going to secure them. I'm going to be responsible for them. Okay.
Love it.
So now you have a team communications person. This is the one that's making sure teams are updated. We communicate early and often with them, and they know exactly what they can expect from how to do the unemployment benefit paperwork, what they can expect from the doctor going forward, when they can expect to show back up to work, or are we going to still stay, out of the office for however much longer. Mm-hmm. And then naturally your patient comms person is going to be the one sending out the emails, circulating to the patient base, getting them rescheduled, and ultimately going in and collecting on any outstanding aging AR. So most likely, like I said, on the insurance side of the house. So those are your 4 roles. Okay. Yep. That's your business continuity plan at a very basic level, but you want to have those 4 roles assigned right now because it's those 4 roles that need to come together and say, okay, if this gets worse and we're not back to work in 2 days or 2 weeks, here's who's responsible for what. And now it's not the doctor doing all of this stuff, right? Because they have to do any SBA loan relief. They had to do all the stop losses with all the bills and all the debts that people are calling about. And they had to call the bank and ask for deferment, and they had to call the landlord. And that's a lot for the doctor to take on. And now I just asked them to call their patients. And so we got to divide and conquer here. We have to delegate. Now, Kevin's point was spot on. It is just really a litmus test for understanding that, hey, when we're asking you to do this stuff, it is business continuity and in some cases business preservation. We are asking it on a volunteer level. We're not asking you to put in hours each week and get compensated for those hours. We're asking that if you'd be willing to volunteer for this role and help us out during this time. And the other reason why we have to be careful about the compensation side of the house is, of course, if you're doing work not on a volunteer level, but because I'm asking you to do so, then you need compensated for it. However, if I'm going to compensate you, I could jeopardize your unemployment benefits. And if we've seen what the stimulus package has sent, there's some favorable things coming out. And I'm not talking about the checks to individuals. I'm talking about the additional dollars they're going to give to unemployment people each and every week, right. And the additional length of time they're going to allow unemployment to go on. However, they're going to be checking, as they do, you have to refile unemployment usually every week in most states, and they're going to be checking on how much compensation did you make, and you may jeopardize your benefits based on how much compensation, how much you worked in the practice. So we have to be careful with that. When in doubt, talk to your HR department. If you use a company of some sort, talk to your attorney, talk to a CPA, or just do your research on your state's unemployment site.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Now, leadership in a interruption. Okay, because I'm moving away from some of the more harsher words. There's no question that this is serious, but the more I say epidemic and pandemic and crisis and that stuff, the more it's going to eat into my own psyche. So you guys can say whatever you'd like. I gotta balance my own head out. So one of the things that we know as a sidebar that impacts what we're able to do every single day is the words that we use and the story that we tell ourselves. So I'm choosing to change up some of my vocabulary. And so leadership in an interruption, if you're a leader on the phone, on the messaging today, or you're a team member today, I want you to be honest about these questions. Question number one, are you, as a leader, communicating clearly and calmly to your team? Okay? Are you communicating clearly and calmly to your team? Number two, are you staying connected to your people virtually? This connection is important. That's why you guys are doing webinars and not pre-recorded calls, or, we're not jumping on a phone and you're just hearing our voices here, okay? This connection, the virtual connection right now, can be everything. These people on your team are used to seeing you 40 hours or more each week, and now they're not seeing you at all. It can be kind of wild on your brain. All right, number three, are you protecting your people's livelihood? Okay, so are you in the mode right now of protecting the business, protecting the future of the practice, and have you taken the steps and put a plan together to do so? And number four, are you reassuring your employees? Okay, so as a leader, have you been able to answer those questions? Are you reassuring your employees? Are you getting on the phone with them? Now, here's the 10 steps. Leadership 101 right now in any sort of business interruption. Number one, align expectations with your team. Let them know what they can expect from you and what you're going to expect from them, and make sure that those items are in alignment. If they're expecting everything from you and you to do everything, but they're not expecting to do anything but sit on the couch and watch, what's that thing on Netflix right now, The Tiger King or something like that? Some wild documentary going around. Have you seen this? I gotta watch it. It's all over. Maybe they're thinking, I get to watch Netflix and catch up on everything, and the doc's going to take care of it all. You need to align expectations, okay? There are 10 of these, so I'm going to go through them quick. Number two, be self-aware. As a leader, eyes are on you. What you do now is going to be judged by your team and by your patient base. So be self-aware. How are you reacting, and how are you being proactive to the situation? Basically, lead by example. If you want team members to be reactive and to be kind of a knee-jerk in all their emotional states, then that's what they'll do. But they're going to look at you and follow your lead. Number three, focus. So you get what you focus on. And essentially what I say here is AKA be positive right now. I'm not asking you that, if you've been impacted by the situation that's going on, maybe a family member or a loved one or someone has been diagnosed and tested positive, that's absolutely going to hit you hard. And so I'm not saying, hey, be positive and the world is sunshine and rainbows, but you also have to temper all the negative messaging going on out there, that this is never going to end and we're going to be doing this until December of next year, or whatever people are saying. So find areas to be positive and then communicate those to the team. Are you guys in that? There's a Facebook group out there that's pretty cool. It's called the No COVID Talk group. It's positivity only.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. It's great. I typically share pictures of my 21-month-old running around naked with the hose on. So we get to do that in Southern Cal, and not right now it's snowing in New York, but that makes me laugh. It's fun, and it's certainly nothing about what's going on in the world today. So it's a nice distraction. Number four, tell the truth. We're in unprecedented times. You're not going to have all the answers. I know the three of us are smart enough to realize when we don't have all the answers. So let your team know, I don't have all the answers yet. Here's what I'm doing to get you the answers. Okay, but tell the truth. Don't shoot from the hip. Don't think you know if you don't know, because this kind of stuff will come back to bite you later on. Number five, know what you stand for. Know what you stand for. Remember you guys are here in the first place. Remind yourself what you stand for. Remind everybody that you trust why your practice exists. And remember what you stand for. Number six, demonstrate empathy. If you have not called all of your team members by now and you haven't checked in with them this week, because you should have done it weekly, you're missing the boat on empathy. But you need to just call them and ask them a few questions, which I will give you, and let them talk, let them vent. And you will be so much more respected as an individual and as a leader that when you come back to practice, you're ideally going to you'll be able to work on your culture now and have the culture that you always wanted when you get the doors open. So show empathy. Number seven, see the big picture. See the big picture. Okay. Right now is a time that we cannot focus on the minutia. We cannot focus on the number of cases or the number of businesses that are failing or all those things. Yes, these things are happening, but look at the big picture here. By most standards, everybody still considers dentistry a very, very great industry to be in. And that has its own gifts and curses. And so you make sure that you're focusing on the big picture. The big picture is, when you guys get back to work, what are we going to do next? Number 8, stay calm. Goes without saying, stay calm. The best leaders have a calm presence even in the face of adversity, even when they don't know what the heck is going on, or when they don't know what's going to happen next. You stay calm. It's not going to help you if your emotions shoot through the roof, your stress is going to go crazy. You're not going to be very calm. Number 9, have a plan. And we just talked about that business continuity plan. So I think that's the first place you start, because it's hard to put a plan together when you have no idea when you're going to get back into business. So have a plan for what to do now. And number 10, just lead. It's simple, but just step up, take the reins, and lead. Leaders delegate, leaders build trust, leaders build confidence. So just step up and lead. There is no training for this stuff. There is no, hey, here's a course you can go to and be certified a leader. I wish there was.
I like that. I like that a lot. Kev, thoughts?
No, I mean, it's some great information, honestly.
Tons.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. And I think people may want to rewatch that, because I think that top 10 right there, I think is really important. And seriously, there's a lot of information. And again, speaking of the team members on my side, okay, don't let all this fall on the doctor's shoulders. If you really want this to be a business that has grown together, and this whole Together We Rise thing that we talk about at DA and DDS, this is that time to do that, and make sure that you are sharing the load. You're doing what you can to make sure that the business continues. And whenever this is over, and we know it will be, that you're ready to hit things full steam, because I guarantee you the patient load you're going to have whenever this is all over with, you need to be preparing for that now, because it's coming.
Totally. I'll tell you what, I think, from the dentist side of things, the coolest thing that a team member could show me is, like, be one of those people who raises your hand and says, I want one of those 4 roles.
Love that.
I want to be that guy. I want to be that gal. And can I tell you guys a quick funny story before we close out?
Oh, please.
So we do this with our team every morning.
Smart.
It's a gift for me, honestly, right? It's just so much fun. And, so we have these conversations, and yesterday, Laura was telling me, who you guys have both met. She's like, yeah, Jennifer is so amazing. She just decided to come in one day and, like, rip out all the grout in one of our bathrooms because she just always hated the way it looked. And then Shannon just decided she was going to come by the practice and just check in to make sure, the world wasn't collapsing. And she looks at Jen. She's like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but if you'd show me, like, I'd love to just stay and help. Right? It's like non-essential, but like so super cool culturally in a practice to have team members who look for an opportunity. So be that team member who looks for the opportunity. Raise your hand, volunteer. One of my favorite quotes is, believe when there is no reason to believe. And we have tons of reasons to believe that we're not only going to just get past this thing, but this is going to teach us a lot of cool lessons on how to be better tomorrow, next month, next year than we've ever been before. So, Johnathan, I know that was a ton of info. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody who's watching this, I will come back. We'll create PDFs for the 4 roles. We'll create another one for Jonathan's top 10 list. You mentioned you had questions that
I'll send those to you, and you can just put that right on your PDFs.
Awesome.
Easy.
This is going to be really cool. So that was typical Johnathan Miller brilliance. So love it. Thanks so much for your time. I know you got a lot on your plate.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Hug the missus.
Absolutely.
And, obviously the wee.
The
wee Miller. Yeah.
We call him Wild Man Miller. So
Wild Man Miller? You got to have a wild man in the house.
Miller. He is a wild man.
I love it. All right, buddy. Hey, thanks for joining us. Kev, any last thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward to doing this again. Hey, every day, IgniteDDS and IgniteDA. If we're not live noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, I guarantee you we'll be on shortly thereafter with some great information like Johnathan just shared.
Perfect. Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.